My name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Museum Open House. This ongoing series features and highlights many of the outstanding museums and other cultural institutions. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about current and upcoming exhibits, various programs, resources, and other opportunities that are available for the general public. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guests Dell Marie Hamilton, Archy LaSalle, Lou Jones, and George Annan Jr., all of whom are associated with the outstanding exhibition at the Fitchburg Art Museum entitled Dialogues, Diasporas, and Detours Through Africa. Dell is a multi-disciplinary artist and writer, and she curated the exhibition in collaboration with Lauren Szumita from the Fitchburg Art Museum. Archy, Lou, and George are all highly accomplished photographers who are involved in a wide range of endeavors. They're 3 of the 7 artists whose work is on display. During the program, we'll be learning why and how the exhibition came about. We'll go on a behind-the-scenes tour, and in the process, come to better understand and appreciate the talented artist whose work is featured, and how the Fitchburg Art Museum's African art collection contributed to this undertaking. In addition, we'll learn about the inaugural Black Artist Residency program at the museum and the Where Are All the Black People At initiative. Let's start by meeting our guests and then finding out all about Dialogues, Diasporas, and Detours Through Africa. Welcome. So delighted you're all able to be here today. Really looking forward to hearing much more about the exhibition. A couple of weeks ago, I had the wonderful opportunity to view the exhibition and admire all the artwork. So eager to move on and then have you inform viewers. But before we jump right to that, I also think it would be of interest if each of you would just very briefly share maybe a little bit more about your backgrounds, artistic, professional interest. Dell, would you please start?
I am happy to do that. And also thank you so much, Jay, for having us on the show today. So as Jay said, my name is Dell Marie Hamilton. I'm an artist and a curator and a writer. My day job, from where I'm filming this interview, is at the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research at Harvard University, which is headed by historian and scholar Henry Louis Gates Jr. from Finding Your Roots fame. I've worked for Dr. Gates for about 20 years, and most of my role here has been in curatorial projects. And so my expertise that is brought to the Dialogues, Diasporas, and Detours exhibition really is rooted in all that I've learned here over the years working for Dr. Gates. As I said, I'm also an artist. So I have a studio in New Bedford. In 2021, I was one of the ICA Boston's Foster Prize recipients.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you. Archy, a few words about your background, please.
Again, thank you as well for having us all here. We're really excited to be a part of this. And as I always start off with, I want to thank Dell Hamilton for curating an amazing exhibition. It is one of the best exhibitions that I've seen in recent times. And knowing the artist that she was working with, I knew it wasn't an easy task. And as I said at the cafe discussion the other day, if there was an Academy Award ceremony, Dell will win in every category, for sure, for sure. Yeah. My name is Archy LaSalle. I'm a fine art photographer and an educator. I've taught almost 30 years at the Cambridge Rindge and Latin School over in Cambridge, taught fine art photography there. I also do fine art photography throughout the world. I travel quite a bit, sort of like my friend Lou Jones there. And I really get excited when I go to a new place for the very first time and I'm able to just take in all of the sounds and the spirits and began to work. So that's primarily, what I do. I'm the founder of Where Are All the Black People At, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the show.
Wonderful. Thank you,
Thank
Archie.
Yes.
Lou, so good to see you again. Just a few words about yourself.
Well, I love being here and seeing you again, and then all of my colleagues here in this endeavor. This just sort of keeps on giving. So this is a wonderful thing. But I guess in order to do this sort of long elevator speech, I'm a commercial photographer. I'm sitting in the living room of my studio. On the other side of that wall behind me is a large studio with an office off to the side that I have employees. I gave them a day off today so that we could do this interview. But I have several employees that keep me on airplanes, do the billing, carry the lights, and hopefully keep me honest in more ways than one. I couldn't do this without them. But most of my work is advertising, industrial, commercial, large projects with lots and lots of models and things. But I have been doing for many years multiple long-term projects. I've done 13 Olympic Games. I did several books on the death penalty, photographing men and women on death rows all over the United States. I've sailed on multiple tall ships around the world and photographed large, huge skyscrapers from the top of the cranes and things like that. That's how I make a major part of my living. And now I have been for the last several years photographing within the attempt to photograph every country in Africa. And the Fitchburg Art Museum is the recipient of the last few of those countries. And that's what's up on the wall that
and we look forward to seeing some of those outstanding photographs soon. Thank you. George, welcome. A few words, please.
Thank you for having me on, and I'm happy to see everybody on the Zoom screen. My name is George Annan. I'm a photographer born and raised in Worcester, Massachusetts, and a graduate of Worcester State University. And my main focus is commercial photography. I've done work for Converse, Crocs, Wall Street Journal, had work featured in Good Morning America, and I'm just grateful to make my museum debut at Fitchburg Art Museum, and grateful that we had Dell's help throughout this whole process with this Black Artist Residency. And it's an honor and a privilege to be associated with like everybody here today. So I just want to say I'm really excited and grateful.
Terrific, terrific. Well, as we can all appreciate, there's so much more we could hear about each of you, but we really should keep it going, pick up the pace so we cover what we intend to. To that end, Dell and perhaps Archie, would you, again, for the sake of time, rather briefly start by providing a little context about the inaugural Black Artist Residency program at Fitchburg Art Museum? Dell?
Sure, Jay. So the Black Artist Residency Program was launched last year in conjunction with Where Are All the Black People At, an artist collective that Archie founded. And the goal was essentially to provide institutional support for both sort of our elder artists working in the region, as well as emerging artists working in the region, and to give them the institutional support, the resources, as well as an opportunity to show their work in a museum space in the culmination of the exhibition. So that's sort of the goal there. The other question too that the residency was trying to respond to was in terms of where are the gaps in terms of where contemporary art and American art, where are those gaps within art institutions? And then how do you buttress your collections and enrich your collections by showing the work of Black artists as well as purchasing the work of Black artists?
Terrific, terrific. Well, before we have a nice overview tour Archie, would you please share a little bit more about the initiative? Where are all the Black people at, please?
Sure, I'm delighted to do that. I started this project back in 1978, but I'm going to move forward to my teaching at Cambridge Ranger Latin School, and where I was doing quite a bit of research on the permanent collections in different museums across the country and started reaching out to them, as well as the George Eastman House in Rochester. And so what I found was there was basically 1.2% of all of the work collected in the museums were by Black artists, and 87% was by white artists, and then there was 82.2 by white artists, male artists, that is. And so I started calling museums and reaching out to them, and Fitchburg Art Museum was one of the first to respond. The Rose Museum responded, as well as the Harvard Art Museum with Makita Best responded as well, and the PBD Essex Museum also responded in a positive way. And so where are all the Black people at? It's been primarily working with these museums and coming up with programs and solutions to rectify this injustice that has happened throughout our country. And so that's sort of the overview of the work that we've been doing. And so working with painters, working with photographers, abstract artists, vocal artists, etc. And we're really excited to be a part of the change that is so needed here in our society, because it's long overdue. And I think that the curators and the directors of a lot of the museums, they need to either change or move on and let people that want to be more inclusive take those particular positions, because the time is now, and especially after the murder of George Floyd, they always put out those letters saying that they are going to do a better job. And for the most part, very few have, because of the same curators and directors are still pretty much gainfully employed. But I have to say that Nick has done a fantastic job. Lauren has done a fantastic job. And in fact, as well as Marie Crowley has done a wonderful job as well. So that's
terrific. Well, definitely look forward to hearing more on another occasion. Moving on to the exhibition, just a few words, Dell, of how it came about, and then we're fortunate to have some fabulous photos of the area, the different galleries, and then we'll hear from the different artists. Dell, just how did it come about, and how did people become to participate
in the exhibition? Yeah, that's a great question. So it started actually as a result of Makita Best, who Archie mentioned. She is a colleague and had reached out to me she's based at the Harvard Art Museum. She reached out to me and indicated that she had a colleague that wanted to produce an exhibition and had been in some early conversations with the Fitchburg Art Museum, who were very receptive to the idea of working on an exhibition for Black artists. So last summer, Archie and I had some time to talk in Harvard Square, and then I brought him over to the Hutchins Center to show him some of the projects I've done here. And then as a result of that process, I applied for the job and interviewed for the position, and then was brought on in November of 2022.
Terrific, terrific. Well, as I mentioned, had these wonderful photos that are going to give us a great overview of what visitors can look forward to as we move through them. Just very briefly, inform us what we're seeing, please.
Sure. So the exhibition is titled Dialogues and Diasporas and Detours, mainly because of the site specificity of the second floor contemporary art galleries. Because I'm a curator and also an artist, in particular because I work in performance, I'm really sensitive to space and to site specificity. So I knew that when we had this opportunity to organize the exhibition in the contemporary galleries, that I would be able to essentially kind of tell a story and lead visitors through the space. And so what you are seeing here is the Cookman mezzanine space. And so the image on the right is by Digi Civetta, who's one of the artists whose work is in the Dialogues Gallery. And then the image there on the left is of Lucy Terry Prince, and this work was commissioned by Reginald Jackson, who's one of the other artists in the exhibition. And so this piece was developed by a Ghanaian artist named Kweku Da Vinci. And so, as I said, the exhibition is organized into 3 themes. This room here is the dialogues room. And in this room, what you're seeing here is the work of Lou Jones, and then pieces from the African art collection of the Fitchburg Art Museum. That was another real catalyst that really guided the whole process of the exhibition. The artists were charged with responding to the African art collection. And so Lou's work, Digi's work, and Bashizo's work make up the dialogues space, partly because these are artists who have tapped into themselves in poetic and transcendent ways, and they've dialogued with themselves and then dialoguing with the continent of Africa. And so that's why that's where that theme sort of comes into play in that room. And then in the Diasporas room, where we find the work of George and Archy and Reginald Jackson, as you see here on the screen in the centerpiece here, that triptych is by Archy. In this room, what I was thinking about in terms of diaspora is how are the ways that African Americans, formerly enslaved, and certainly new immigrants from the continent, how do they shape and make the lands that tell stories about who we are? And in particular, because George and Archy's work was really predicated on responding to farming objects that were within the exhibition, I knew that, again, with Reginald Jackson's piece here, this collage piece on the wall, this promised land sort of invitation, that alone could tell a story about the land and geography of what we are experiencing here in New England. How do you make a new story when you put down roots in a place, right? And then in the Detours room, that is the work of Sharon Dunn. Sharon was responding to the permanent installation that is all focused on the country of Egypt. And that alone, the country of Egypt itself has, for many, many decades, for generations, provided inspiration to Black artists the world over. And in often instances, Egypt and contemporary Black art is fused together in the notion of Afrofuturism. And so with Sharon's work, what she wanted to do is not only create photographs in response to the permanent Egyptian installation, but she also then takes us on a tour by creating 6 virtual exhibitions. And so those are the computer monitors that you see there. Mm-hmm. And so that detour notion really speaks to the way that the internet sort of takes us down rabbit holes. You go online to go look for one, object or item or something to put in your shopping cart, and next thing you know, the algorithm is taking you on to another path. So that's where the detour through Africa conversation comes through. And then this image here, what you're seeing are images by Reginald Jackson on the right, and then in the center there with those stencils, that's more work by Digi Civetta. And then further down, you see the garments on the wall. Those are also by Digi Civetta. Digi is a multimedia artist as well. She works in painting and in performance and fashion design. So that's kind of what you're seeing there. But this section is the Learning Lounge. This is also a reading space. I always have a reading list with every single exhibition that I curate. This is the first time I was able to have an actual reading space for young people, for old folks, for everyone in between, to be able to engage with artworks that the artists created for the exhibition, but also too, there's a library space just to the right of Reginald's images there.
It's a wonderful opportunity, and one that I've noticed that many of the major exhibitions at the Fitchburg Art Museum have, which really makes it sort of extra special place to visit. Moving on, Lou, welcome again, and just a few words about your contribution to the exhibition, please, and then we'll look at some photographs.
My section is traditional photography, hopefully plus. I have been for the last several years engaging by going for extended periods of time back to Africa and photographing each country one by one, and trying to dispel a lot of the myths that colonialism and Western media has created about today's Africa. It's all contemporary work. That's what the point of the project, and that sort of dovetailed into the larger idea of what this project is, in that we're showing contemporary Africa in the work that I'm doing, and we tied it in with the collection, which is traditional Africa. You see the different artworks that are traditional African also integrated into in between my photographs. But the long-term project that I'm involved in is, you see, here we go. And these are some of the photographs that I took responding to the inspirations that I got from the African collection at Fitchburg Art Museum. This is in Kenya. I'm sorry, this is in Mozambique. This is the most recent, just a couple of months ago, I was in Mozambique for an extended period of time. And this is a very well-known dance troupe that is choreographing contemporary dance, but using very traditional elements from their history. This is again in Mozambique, country way out on the eastern part of Africa, right on the Indian Ocean. So this is a harbor, Indian Ocean harbor waters, and this is showing how they have integrated into the long-term history of the Indian Ocean and its history in Africa and the world, but also the contemporary way in which people are being employed and how people are making a living. This is fishermen and a large fishing fleet.
Outstanding shot. And what are we seeing here?
Well, we have to be very, very careful. This is something that we have had to wrestle with the entire time since we're doing contemporary Africa. And like I said, dispelling a lot of the negative issues that have come about, and the very, very negative issues which are intentionally negative by Western media. We have gone back and done a lot of interiors. A lot of the photography that we see by Western is outside. So we have gone inside to show a lot of, and this is the largest ghetto in the entire continent of Africa. It's in Kenya, it's in Nairobi, and it is an entire society. And being able to go into the interiors of how people live without municipal electricity, water, without any of the sort of necessities that we consider part of our society, how people have found a way to live. And this is a family in one of the ghettos in Kenya.
Wonderful opportunity to see. And just a couple words about this studio that we're seeing. Quite a contrast.
Well, that's the point of the entire, is to show how we often only see photographs of the kids with enlarged bellies and fly